In Tao, you can set the time limit for any level of an assessment test, either for the whole test, for a specific test part or section, or even for a single item. In the test runner, the time limit set for any level of the test will be displayed as a countdown. The test we are using in this video has two segments, one for introduction and instructions and one with the actual questions. A very basic setup would be to limit the duration of the whole test to, let's say, 15 minutes. Select the gears at the level of the test and then in the configuration panel select time limits. Now set the time to 15 minutes and that's it. If you have only one test part and only one section, it doesn't really matter on which level you set the timer. The only difference will be the label of the countdown. This label is either the title or the identifier of a level, depending on what Qt allows in the given context. Remember that identifiers are limited to Latin characters, numbers, underscores and hyphens. It's a good idea to consider using a single word for levels where a title isn't available. You may also have noticed the field Late Submission Allowed. If you check this box, responses will be counted as valid even if the timer has already run down. Let's look at some real-world examples of timer usage. A common scenario is that students are given unlimited time to read test instructions, but as soon as they start answering questions, the clock starts ticking. You could achieve this by having two separate sections, one without the timer for the instructions and another one with the timer for the questions. Now let's take this a step further. Not only can students spend as much time as needed on the instructions, they can also navigate back and forth between the instructional items. On the question part, however, time is limited and they can only move forward as there is no previous button. Tests which only can be navigated in one direction are called linear, and tests where you can go backwards and forwards are known as non-linear. This particular configuration is only available on a test part level. As a consequence, the instructions and the questions need to be accommodated in different test parts. Set the instruction part to non-linear and leave the timer settings on the default values, then set the question part to linear and add your timer there. As already mentioned, you can also set competing timers. You could, for instance, allow 60 minutes for a whole test with two sections and at the same time limit the time for the sections to 35 minutes each. Whichever of these countdowns ends first will terminate the respective segment. Theoretically, you could use up to 4 competing countdowns, all set for different levels of the test. Having so many timers is likely to prove quite stressful for test takers, however, and it's therefore not advisable to do this.